5 seconds. Start. It is a great pleasure for me to be here today with you all to honor our meritorious teachers. I would like to congratulate the recipients of awards who have earned this distinction through sustained hard work and dedication. I am confident that this national recognition to teachers will inspire all others in the teaching profession to do their best and win similar recognition in the coming years. The nation is celebrating today the Teachers' Day, which coincides with the birthday of Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, an illustrious son of India and a distinguished predecessor of mine. He was a teacher himself, and his contribution to the world in the field of learning is well known. It is heartening to note that there are several teachers who are devoted to the profession and work hard for the development of young minds in spite of hardships and unsettling conditions in many years. I hope that the entire teaching community will emulate their example and try to reach the standards attained by the award winners who are with us here today. These awards were instituted by the government in order to focus the attention of the nation on teachers and their welfare. Methods of teaching are constantly undergoing change, whether it be in the teaching of humanities or of sciences. Emphasis is now rightly given to stimulating a pupil's interest and curiosity and making him eager to learn rather than being a passive recipient of information. Gone are the days when pupils could be made to learn things by rote. Teachers have now to keep themselves abreast of new and improved methods of teaching. Among the directive principles of the Constitution is one which lays down that children be given opportunities and facilities to develop in a healthy manner, and the provisions of free and compulsory education for all children until they complete the age of 14 years as enjoined by the Constitution. We are far from fulfillment of these goals. While academic learning is important for our children, no less important is it for them to become good and responsible citizens. There is growing pressure on the community's limited natural resources. There are ever increasing demands on the civic and public services provided at great cost. Rapid industrialization and concentration of large population in limited areas have thrown up civic, environmental and other problems which could not be visualized years ago. It gives me great pleasure to be here amidst all of you today to inaugurate the Silver Jubilee celebrations of the Scindia Kanya Vidyalaya. When Srimati Vijaya Rajesh Scindia invited me for this function, I readily agreed to come as I consider women's education vital for the progress of the nation. I am glad to learn that the school was inaugurated by Dr. Rajendra Prasad, my illustrious predecessors, and the foundation stone of the school building was laid by our present Prime Minister. The school has made rapid progress and has acquired a good name for itself as a public residential school for girls. The principal staff and the management deserve to be congratulated on this achievement. I am happy to know that the Government of India have enlisted this institution as an approved residential school, and some merit scholars are sent here for study. The school, I am informed, has among its students some from Manipur and Assam and also Jammu and Kashmir. Intermingling of pupils from different parts of the country helps to promote harmony and understanding between the various linguistic areas, which is essential for the country's unity. In our freedom struggle under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, women played a great role as they did earlier with Rani Jhansi by fighting the British. Here I must make a reference not only to these great women like Sarojini Naidu, who actively participated in the freedom struggle, but to the large number of women who looked after the families when their men folk courted arrest and went to jails and silently suffered privation in the hope of seeing a free India some day. Here the memory of Kasturba Gandhi also comes before our minds and inspires us. Our ancient scriptures tells us that the gods are pleased where the women are held in esteem, and good bless those families where women are happy and well treated. While this was so in the glorious past, these values were forgotten over the centuries because of many historical factors. The conditions of women in India engaged the attention of great thinkers like Swami Vivekananda, who trace the downfall of India to the neglect of women and the masses. He said, in India there are two great evils forced on the women and grinding the poor, for which the Swamiji's program was emancipation of women and uplift of the masses. Pleading passionately for the education of women, Swamiji said, it is only in the houses of educated and pious mothers that great men are born. In India, a social revolution has been brought in recent times with men and women enjoying equal rights here.